What's up everyone, Adam here from Cape Crawlers, and today we're going to talk about venting your tires. Alright, welcome back to the channel everyone. So today's topic, we're going to look at venting your tires. What exactly do I mean by venting the tires? Some examples of tires that I've vented. We'll look at the pros and cons of venting your tires, when you should, when you shouldn't. And then we're going to do a real live example of venting the tires here on the C10. So let's start with talking about what exactly is tire venting. And to do that, let's take a little closer look at the JL and also some factory wheels and tires that came on this rig. So tire venting, all tire venting is putting a hole in your tire or your rims and letting air escape. You're letting the air come in and out. And what that does is just gives your tire the ability to squish, really squish down and flex and grab onto obstacles and conform to obstacles much better than it would if it was just solid on the bead holding air. And if we could look at the JL here, let me see if I can find the hole. There are two holes in each tire here. There's one right there in the top. You take a look at that. See one very small hole in the top here, and there's one parallel to it in the bottom. So I've punched a hole in either side of the tires here. I've done it to all four. And if we look at a stock wheel and tire that came with this thing, Axial vents these from the factory, but they vent the rims instead of the tire themselves. There's one little hole drilled into the wheel, and that does the same thing that I was just saying with my tires. It just lets the air escape so that the tire can squish and conform better to obstacles. So now that we've explained what tire venting is and what I mean by that term, let's talk about some of the pros and cons of venting your tires. So let's start with the pros. The biggest pro is really performance and really maximizing your tire's capabilities. So if we look at these big tall tires here like the Scramblers and the Super Swampers here on the C10, similar size tires, similar height. They have a lot of sidewall here. They have a big footprint. But what venting your tires does is it allows these tires to really work to their maximum potential. And what I mean by that is that when the air is able to get pushed out of the tire when it's running up against an obstacle, it becomes a really valuable tool in your toolkit for climbing because it conforms and wraps around obstacles, particularly around square-edged or sharper obstacles, and it just gives you tremendously more traction. So to demonstrate this, let me show you on this trusty little block here. Let's take a closer look and I'll show you exactly what I mean by the tires conforming to obstacles and the squish factor that you get with the vented tire. Alright, here's our block here. Let's start with the C10. So we've got the C10 here running these Super Swampers. Now if you remember from my flex video, my 5 tips for max flex on these guys, I looked at these tires as an example of a stiff tire that didn't have a whole lot of give and that didn't help you out from a squishiness factor. And that still holds true here. So if we look at this block as an obstacle that you're coming against, say you drive up on it, there's not much give in that tire whatsoever. It's just resting on it. It's not compressing hardly at all. But if we look at the JLU here, which has this vented Scramblers, I'll show you what I mean. You see it just wraps around the edge of that block there. So you can imagine in a real world scenario, if this was a rock or a ledge or something that you were trying to climb, realistically, what do you think is going to perform better? It's definitely going to be the vented tire because it's wrapping around that edge and it's just going to grab on and pull itself up much better than the alternative. So another pro to venting your tires is the tunability you get with a vented tire. And what I mean by that is really customizing your performance based on your foam selection, your foam height, your foam compound, the brand, and the overall performance that you get from using different foams and different strategies in that area. Now you wouldn't be able to do that if you had an unvented tire because the tire is only going to squish and conform as much as the air inside it will allow. But by venting it, then you're able to get into different varieties of foams. Like here I have 4 different shapes and sizes and compounds of foams, and you really can customize your performance, your tire performance, using these foams, but only if you've got a vented tire, because otherwise you're not going to get the squish and the conformity in the tire itself to get down into the foam to get that working to your advantage. All right, so we've talked about the pros. What about the cons? What are some of the downsides to venting your tires? Number 1 is that when you're going to put holes in your tires to let air out, you're going to let the elements come in. So you think about running in mud, in water, in loose sand. All that's going to make its way inside your tire. That's kind of a pain in the butt, because what you're going to have to do is get in there, break your wheel down, and clean that out manually. I've heard some folks say that, no, you just pick it up, run the throttle wide open, and the velocity of the wheel spinning will push the moisture out of your holes. I don't feel like these guys have enough juice to spin the tires fast enough to clean out the wheels. So if you're someone who runs in muddy terrain a lot, wet terrain, or really loose sand, you might want to think twice about venting your tires, because that is going to make its way inside your wheel, and you will have to clean it out manually. It will break down your foams faster, but foam's not a huge expense, and it's not a tremendous amount of work to clean out your wheels and tires. So that's up to you. So if you don't mind the extra tinkering, then that's fine. But if you don't want to mess around with that, cleaning out your wheels and tires, you might want to think twice. Okay, enough talking. So let's get into what you probably really came here for, which is actually how to vent your tires. So my preferred method is using a leather punch. So I got this leather punch at, I think it was Michael's craft store. It was like 10 or 12 bucks. So I like to use the leather punch. I use the smallest setting on here, and we're going to punch 2 holes perpendicular to each other in each one of these tires. Okay, here we are. So here's our tire right here. Got broken down. Again, take our leather punch. See, it's got this wheel here. We want to make sure you do the smallest one here. It's about the size of a tip of a pen here. Leather punch is my preferred. I tried using just a small screwdriver to try and punch through, but it just didn't work. And the hole wasn't big enough. It wasn't clean enough. It didn't let the air escape like it should. Some folks use a hot piece of steel wire. You can heat it up really good with a torch, and then poke that through the rubber. You get kind of the same effect. Either way, you get a nice clean circular hole in the tire. Leather punch is just my preferred because it's just quick, it's easy, it makes a nice clean hole, and works really well. So what we're going to do right in the center. I'm going to punch this right in the middle of the tread here. Just wiggle it around, make sure that we got our good hole. Yep, that looks good. Right there, if you can see, so right in the center, get a nice clean punch there. Now we're going to flip it over. I'm going to try to do one as close to parallel as I can on the other side. Do the same thing. And that's it. See, again, get that nice clean hole there right in the middle. Now we're going to mount these things back up and see how squishy they are. See, it's actually a pretty soft tire. I'm hoping that this is going to be nice and squishy when we get them on here vented. So let me do the other 4 here. Good thing about these Enduro wheels, they're really quick. So let me do these other 4, and then we'll throw it on the C10 and we'll take it for a test drive. So full transparency, was really hoping for a more dramatic result there. These tires are just really stiff. Maybe if the rig was heavier, we'd get more conformity and more squish out of the tires, but it just didn't happen this time around. And that's part of tinkering, you know. Sometimes we get great results, sometimes it doesn't pan out the way you want. But in any case, I hope that's a good tutorial for you on how to vent your tires. That's the method that I use. That's the method that I've used on my Gladiators and the JLU, and I've had great results. But the lesson of today is that if you're going to vent your tires, make sure you've got nice, soft, and squishy ones. Otherwise, you're not going to see the benefits of venting the tires. I even ran these with no foams, and they're still, you know, very, very rugged. So not an ideal tire for venting or for demonstration purposes. I'll keep playing with it and see if I can change the results, but I think it is what it is with these tires. All right, I got one more demonstration for you because I can't let you guys go on that somewhat disappointing C10 example. So what I've done for you is I got a brand new RC four-wheel drive scrambler mounted on the deep dish stamped steel bead locks. Same setup as I run on the JLU here. I did not vent this, so now we've got an apples to apples comparison. Vented scrambler, unvented scrambler. So I'm going to show you side by side a comparison of what the vented version looks like versus the unvented. So let's do a couple demonstrations here and see if this gives you a better idea of the benefits and the results from a properly vented tire. All right, here's our tires here. So right off the bat, so let's just take a look, just do the finger test here. So super duper squishy with the vented. Still get some decent flex in the unvented, but you can just see the difference here. It was just some very light pressure. Tons more squish out of here. You can even hear it. Probably doesn't pick it up in the microphone, but you can hear it pushing the air out and sucking it back in. So let's put these on the rig and we'll do the demonstrations that we did with the old trusty block here. All right, here we go. So we got the brand new unvented version over here. It's a little loose because my big hex hub is still on my other tire here, but it's on there. And we got the vented tire on the right hand side. So let's look at our block here. Let's do the squish test on the block. Just standing. So there's the unvented version. See, the scrambler still flex pretty good with no venting. This is a nice soft tire. I do have the same exact foams in here too. So I put the little Nova soft compound microfoam in here, same as I've got in my regular tires here. So it's running the exact same foam setup. The only difference is that this is unvented versus vented. So here's the unvented version. Let's flip it around. There's the vented version. So just sitting there under its own weight, you can see the difference that you get in the squish and the conformity of the tire when you do a venting system on it. Let's look at something, another different angle here. Let's say you were up on top, like posted up on an obstacle here. That's the unvented version. Again, still conforming decently to that block. Let's try the vented version. Yeah, let's see, it just grabs a hold of it a lot more, wraps around it a lot more, and that's going to translate into a lot more traction. So you can see that, just envision that on a real life obstacle if you were climbing up and over a sharp edge obstacle like that. The vented version is just going to give you a lot more grip, and it's much more noticeable here when you see it kind of side by side, the difference that you get from the venting. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you found this helpful. That's how I like to vent my tires. There are lots of different ways to do it. That's my preferred method. I like to vent my tall tires. I don't typically vent the smaller tires because I just haven't felt the need to do it. So on my big tires, I do like to vent them. Smaller ones, not so much. So I hope this helped you out. Let me know down in the comments, do you vent your tires? What are some of the methods that you use? I'd like to hear from you guys. As always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe if you've not done so already. I really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.